nasty.
I've told people many times, I don't think you should sell.
Yeah.
Or I don't think you should buy, or you should wait. I have a home buyer consultation. I built it up over the past 10 years. It's like an 80-page booklet. It goes through everything. Actually, one of my joys is to teach good people how to do the job, because I think we need more mentors in every aspect of life, not only in professional and personal life. And they say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. That's also another sexy saying, but make it through the 10 years of getting kicked in the stomach every freaking day.
Yeah. Hey, we're back again with another episode of the Nasty Truth Podcast. And today on this episode, we have one of my close friends, Samir Madawar. Samir is a real estate broker in Southern California. And today we're going to break down what it means to be a real estate agent, what it means to be a real estate broker, the schooling and the training required for those professions. And we're going to really talk about what it's like to manage a team of real estate agents in Southern California. At this point, Samir now has over 20 people working for him, and he's really specialized in training people the right way, giving them the values and the beliefs that have helped them to get success within his industry. And he enjoys teaching and embedding his employees with his beliefs, and he's done a great job of it so far. So if you're interested in potentially buying a home, if you're interested in becoming a real estate agent, or if you're interested in knowing what it means to be a broker in Southern California, then listen on in. Samir is a great individual who really loves those around him, and he does a great job embedding his team with the values that he upholds as a great father, as a great leader, and as a great real estate agent. Chime on in. This is going to be great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Nasty Truth Podcast. Today, we have one of my close friends, Samir Madawar, here. Samir is here to teach us about real estate. We're going to be talking about what it means to be a real estate agent, what the real estate market is like right now in this COVID climate, and he's going to be giving us a bunch of information. Samir, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I'm going to introduce Samir today. Samir has been a real estate agent since 2005, actually a real estate broker. And he opened up his office with his beautiful wife, Linda. She's also another close friend of mine, and he's a father of 3, and I know he loves being a father more than anything else on the planet, and is super proud of his children. They're all beautiful, as handsome as he is, so this is a good thing. And he's had an office, Remax Prestige is what they originally opened as, but now they've transformed into a company called the Brokerage, which is a play on the word brokerage, but brokerage. Yep. And it is a great play on words. I love it. I know that something he really takes pride on is having a company where they have a strong company culture, and they really take pride in loving where they work. And I think they actually trademarked, what did you guys trademark?
We trademarked love where you work.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I don't think a lot of people can go into their offices and say that. And I know in the real estate industry particularly, it's very cutthroat. And so if you really love where you work, I'm sure that it pays dividends because your team works harder for you, you love working with them, and you guys are able to crush it a lot more.
100%. It's also really important when people are looking to hire any professional, doesn't matter if it's a real estate agent, an attorney, any service professional. If somebody loves where they work, it comes across, and it's easier to gain clients and retain them for forever. So loving where you work is not just for the office culture; it's really for our clients. It always stems from our clients.
That's amazing. That's always good. It's important to define your core values, and it seems like I looked up on your website. You guys actually have your core values right now, which is Aspire, and I know that each letter stands for something special, and I really love that. And I loved how you guys were able to take it and transform it into a way that you can express what you guys do for your clients and how you work with each other. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your core values so people can hear a little bit more about you?
Yeah. Aspire is, we obviously wanted a cool word. That's good. It's always good for marketing, but we really wanted to find the words that correlated to everything that we believe in. So it's obviously very important to be good at what you do. Nobody wants to, work with someone who's just happy and fun and friendly. Yeah. If they can't do their job well. So Aspire, aptitude. We want to make sure that we're very good at what we do. It took a little while to come up with all the right words, and obviously some of the words that we wanted to use, we couldn't. So, and service is very important. So we wanted to make sure that we had service in there, and it's just something that was easier to remember and that we could put on a website and that all of our agents could easily remember as well.
Absolutely. I think anagrams are amazing. That's the correct term, right? Yeah, anagrams are something good. It helps people remember. I know one for my firm, we use the word PET is one of them, which deals with patience, empathy, and trust is one of the terms. And we use APE for technology, which is something about associations, technology, and processes. And so we really try to use words to help remember too. They're amazing.
Yeah, in the real estate, there's a lot of negative associations with real estate agents that we've rightfully earned, at least from the crash, right? And we have a salesperson type of a stigma in a sense. And
for sure,
I really don't even know why we have a sales license. I really think that they should take that away because we have fiduciary responsibility in our job.
Of course.
And you know probably more about that than I do.
Yeah, we have a lot of fiduciary responsibilities in my job too.
Yes, you do. And so when we act as salespeople, we actually contradict our fiduciary responsibilities, right? Because a salesperson has always got commission first, right?
Yeah.
That's always what they've got in their mind. Whereas a fiduciary responsibility, you can never have commission first because you always have to have the client first.
Yeah.
And that's why in our core values, we also included integrity, right? So we tried to combat a lot. And I encourage people to go onto our website and look at our core values and read them because that's how we act.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to also attack a lot of the negative stigmas that were attached to real estate professionals that act like salespeople and those core values.
Well, I mean, you work in an industry where, not to use a cheap term, but real estate agents are a dime a dozen, right? There's a million of you. There's actually millions on millions of you, and they're everywhere. Everyone's got their cousin's mother's brother, their sister. Everybody's a real estate agent, right? And so for that reason, it's super cutthroat. And you almost, when you think of a real estate agent, you think of very salesy. Somebody's trying to pressure you into using them, right, over using somebody else. And it seems like you're trying to create a culture, you're creating a brand where people can be like, okay, somebody goes to the brokerage. It's not just like a normal basic franchise. You're going to work with this specific company because they really value these things and they're going to do what's good for and what's best for the customer first.
Yeah, you've hit on a couple points. I mean, really, when you're hiring somebody to sell your largest asset, the last thing you want is the thing that you see on Bravo TV.
Yeah.
That's just not how it's done. I get it. There's certain price points where, these people are just hiring the fancy realtor and they're selling multi-million-dollar homes and they're just probably doing it because they want their house to be on TV. But at the end of the day, when we're dealing with, a first-time buyer or maybe a move-up buyer that's buying a $700,000 asset, and that's what we consider them, assets, this is this person's maybe retirement, right? And it needs to be treated in that manner, and that's how serious it is. So that's always the mind frame when we're working in from our assets, is that we're working with people's assets, and it's a very serious thing. We don't want to have that salesy it's not a sales job. It's really about figuring out this person's most valuable financial asset and how to help them through a transition and doing it properly so that they, can raise their family there and create those memories and have that retirement.
Yeah, 100%. So what I want to talk about today, or where I want to start, is this. So right now we're dealing with a climate that's unlike any other climate in the history of, I think, the United States, right? We're dealing with a pandemic, which is something that we've not really had to deal with before. I know that typically during difficult times, right, where you would consider like a recession, almost when the bubble burst in like 2008, typically we're dealing with prices going down, we're dealing with people freaking out, we're dealing with interest rates going out of whack. But it seems to be, from my own personal research, that right now there's actually less of a supply of homes. People are at home and they're buying more properties, and the demand is actually very high and the supply is significantly lower than it was in years prior. And for that reason, actually prices are going up. And so I've heard people like freak out about the fact that maybe this is going to be another bubble, it's going to burst. But I've also talked to a lot of financial advisors that are saying it's not going to burst. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you. You have 23 agents that work for you. You have a very good pulse on what's going on in the market. I would like to hear what your thoughts are on the market, what people should be thinking about, and what are some things that we should be paying attention to.
Right. And so, you never know when first of all, let's start by saying there's always corrections.
Yeah.
And now let's separate corrections from a crash.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people mix the two together. You're always going to have downturns, and those are buying opportunities. You really got to look at real estate from a long-term perspective, really.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from a short-term perspective, then you are an investor, in my opinion, and investors are subject to more risk.
What would you consider long-term versus short-term?
In general, nothing less than 5 years, in my opinion, in real estate so anything less than 5 years, I would consider more short-term. For sure, 3 years. But once you get to the 5 years plus, you're considered, in my opinion, more long-term.
Okay,
right?
got it.
And in general, people stay in their homes 7 to 8 years on average before they're moving on average. And that's kind of trended lower over the years, especially with the new millennials coming into the market. That's probably going to come down a little bit. But if you have that longer term horizon, you really shouldn't worry. You should really figure out what your payment is that you can afford, think long term, and never look back. And really, from that perspective, as a primary owner, there's always buying opportunities. And
Yeah.
That holds true right now too. Now, regarding the supply issue, yes, we have a crazy supply issue, and that's not going anywhere, at least not in the near term. So this market that we have going on, I don't see how it stops. Definitely not before next year.
Okay.
And at least into the middle of next year, we are going to have a supply issue unless a bunch of people decide to list their home for sale, we're going to have a supply issue.
So when you're saying supply issue means that there's more demand than people are wanting to sell.
Correct. So real estate is seasonal, and people, what happens is we peak in inventory, meaning the highest amount of inventory we have peaks around, for homes for sale, peaks sometime late summer, early fall. And then we decline to our lowest points of inventory by the end of the year.
Why?
It's just the seasonality of how when people list their homes, they typically list in spring, just because especially in Southern California, school, people don't want to move. It's just, it just becomes the...
Oh, they list it like at the end of the school year so that they can move potentially during the summer, and then
No,
they can
sorry.
get
I mean, what I meant was they'll list like in springtime.
Okay.
So our spring is our busiest time of year. People think it's summer, but all the summer has the statistics, the closings, but all that activity happens in the spring.
Got it.
So people list their homes, and a lot of the buying activity happens in the spring, and then those results are recorded in summer. Summer is actually our second busiest time of year.
Okay.
Right, and then fall and then winter is our slowest time of year.
Got
So
it.
we really gear up with the lowest demand of the year from the beginning of the year, and we really gear up through spring, and we peak sometime around fall, and then we go back to our lowest amounts of inventory through winter. So our inventory is going to continue declining through the end of the year, and we're going to start next year with probably record low inventory, lower than we started this year.
Oh, wow.
And rates are still very low, which means demand is going to be very high.
Got it.
So yes, those people you're talking to, I would agree with that in foreseeable future, this continued trend of prices going up and high demand is gonna continue.
Got it. And do you think right now the interest rates are lower than they've ever been, right, in the history of the United States. So what do you know from your experience and from the knowledge that you have, how long do you think this is going to be locked in, or how long do you think potentially we will have these low interest rates?
Well, I've been wrong so many times, I would hate to give you another wrong prediction.
Fair.
But I'll tell you from what we're hearing in the industry, they really have no incentive to raise the rates.
Yeah.
They've tried doing it a couple times, and it really slowed the market down. We're really kind of in a situation where I think rates will remain low. They have to remain low.
Yeah. To keep things going.
To keep things at least steady. They don't have to keep cutting them, but if once you raise them, it really cuts into affordability.
Yeah.
And with prices have gone up, I don't think it would be a good situation. And they've learned that a couple times the hard way over the last few years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there might be some correlations. Let's say vaccine comes out, maybe the economy goes back to normal. Maybe there'll be something along those lines where they can raise it a little bit. But I think you're right. I think it will cause mass panic if they raise it too soon, and it's going to help the economy crush, or it's going to hurt the economy more than it's going to help in the long run.
Yeah, the fiscal policy has changed so much since 2008. The rules just changed.
Yeah.
We had these rules that everybody played by for the last 100 years or whatever, 50 years or whatever you want to, whenever they would change the monetary policy from before that.
Yeah.
And now we're in unmarked territories.
Yeah.
We've never done this before. We really don't know what the fallout is going to be.
Of course.
I mean, I'm sure there's a couple really smart people that know what's happening.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, we're just going to have to play it out and just make smart decisions. What I tell people today is that everybody wants to know, Sam, or should I buy now? Is the market going to crash? Should I wait? Should I wait until the market crashes? First of all, crashes, like I said, these are black swan events.
Yeah.
And even if you look throughout history, even the 2008, I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen that movie, the guy that predicted the crash.
Yeah, I know.
There's like 3 people that predicted
right?
it. Yeah, the Big Short.
Yeah.
There's like 3 people that knew that was going to happen, and they put their money where their everybody else didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah.
You can't predict crashes. Now, there's always downward trends in a market, and you can wait. But I always tell people, you don't know when that's going to happen. So if we continue to have the price appreciation that we're having right now, and you wait 6 months, you may pay 10% more for a house that goes down 5%. So what's the point in that?
Yeah.
Really, it's think long term, buy what you can afford as a primary owner with the tax benefits you get.
Yeah.
And people don't just buy homes for investment, especially when you're living in them. There's other benefits. It's really not worth trying to time it. Now, if you're an investor, it might be a little bit different. A good deal is not a good deal for everybody, I always say. So there's good deals in every market.
That's a good quote.
Yeah. So you just got to know what you're looking for, and then you can find it. It will come.
Got it. So you're saying right now, if somebody's looking to buy a place, they shouldn't, I know because a lot of people have told me they're trying to wait for a crash. But like you said, even if that crash happens, the crash might only be a correction. It might not be a crash, right? So if it's a correction, you waited 6-7 months to a year, the price is now 10-20% more, but the correction might have only been 5 or 10%. And so you're still going to lose money in the long run. And not only that, but you might be putting money towards rent instead of putting it towards a mortgage, which is an investment on your property. So there's a lot of benefits towards just moving in when it's the right time for you.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, and one really good example is during COVID.
Yeah.
COVID first happened, nobody knew what was happening. And I did have I had a number of my buyers, even my buyers that I was working with. I said, you know what, let's just pause. And I was just talking like a week to, we had no idea what was going on. But then as things started, unraveling, and and people weren't dying all over the streets of California, right? We said, okay. Now the question came, okay, my clients were calling me, all right, we're comfortable to go out and start looking again, but we're scared, should we buy a house right now or should we wait? That was a tough position to be in.
Yeah.
Because I know we've never had a pandemic. I've never seen a pandemic, how it's affected a real estate market. So we really just took the fear out of it, right? And that's number one, fear is the worst thing ever. In any situation, you take the fear out of it. You analyze it from a perspective of facts, statistics, and their long-term vision of where they're going to be. And I pretty much gave everyone the same advice. And we actually talked about this with all the agents in the office, and it really, really helped. And I think it helped navigate a lot of the buyers that were really on the sidelines and going to pull the plug to purchasing. Had those buyers not purchased, they'd be paying 10% more for the home that they bought in this spring.
Yeah.
I have a client right now that same situation. They were one of the people that didn't take the advice to move forward, and they, on average, the houses, they're in a little higher price point. They're going to be paying at least $150,000 more for the same house they could have bought 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So you can't predict. You can't predict crashes, downturns, pandemics. Yeah. Everyone thought this pandemic was going to create a real estate crisis.
Yeah.
It created the hottest real estate market ever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. And not only that, but if there is a crash, there's a high percentage chance that maybe the interest rates are not going to stay the same, right? And if the interest rates go up, then yeah, sure, you might have saved some money on the property itself, but now you're paying $400 or $500 more a month, $1,000 or thousands more a month on the interest rate instead of what you could have saved at this time too. So you kind of have to weigh things on all avenues. And I think you're kind of hitting it on the nose also, because I think when people go into buying a home, a lot of people are not thinking long-term. Buying your house should be a long-term investment, right? And you want to buy it, you're not trying to flip it unless you're an investor. You're buying it and it's something that you're planning to have for 10, 20 years, or maybe even after you move out, you keep it as an income property, right? And so you need to understand that there's one thing on the planet that there's never going to be more of, right? It's real estate. So at some point, the value of your property is going to go up, even if there's a correction, even if there's a crash. You need to think of what's best for you at the time that you're looking to purchase and what's best for you at that time, instead of worrying about all the anomalies that could happen at any time. Try to stay focused on what matters, getting you into the right home, getting you into the property that makes sense for you and what you can afford.
Yeah, you're very right. Having that vision is key. Also, we have a lot of, Southern California is a pretty desirable place to live. Not just, the weather's amazing. There's a lot of great things that attract people here. COVID actually did another unexpected thing. With everybody being comfortable working at home, there's a lot of people in the Bay Area that are like, well, I don't really like living up here. I just live up here because I have to, because my job is here. But those places are now all working from home. We're getting a lot of calls, and we're working with a lot of buyers right now that are relocating to Southern California because they're like, well, why would I pay $2 million to live in this small house in the Bay Area and they don't, this is what they're telling me. This is not my opinion.
No, I understand.
They don't like the weather. They don't, they're moving here.
I've been there before. I don't like the weather there either, so I get it. And they're living on top of each other. I always joke, I say San Francisco's like LA and Manhattan had a baby, right? And it's just like, why do you want to live on top of other people, pay 3 times the price for living? I think Orange County is the best place in the world to live. I might be biased because I'm from here, but I've lived in San Diego. I've lived in Los Angeles, and those places are great. They have their own thing, but when it comes to quality of life, there's very little crime here. It's very nice neighborhoods. It's great to raise kids. this is the best place probably in the world to live overall. And not only that, but if you really want to go to a city, drive 45 minutes to LA. If you want to go to San Diego, drive 45 minutes to San Diego. You get the bus to both worlds. And not only, you don't even have to drive. I Uber to these places. When my friends say, come hang out, like we look at the cost of a hotel, it's like $200, or I can just take an Uber 100 one way and still come home to my bed with no headache. And I've done that many times too.
Yeah, it is a fan. I think it's being discovered by a lot of people. And now that everyone's working from home, or a lot of places are working from home, you're going to get a lot more demand from very highly paid, tech and other types of people that are like, well, I don't have to live, wherever it is. It could be in the Bay Area, it could be in New York, it can be wherever. Well, might as well come live where I want to live and and they get a lot more for their money.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting to see if that has a macro impact on the real estate economy here. But
it's gonna be a good impact for you for sure.
Right. It would end up driving prices a little higher for sure in the higher end market.
Yeah. So let's talk about another thing. So your job is different than a lot of other jobs, meaning, for my industry, since one thing we talked about is we closed our office, right? We're all working virtually because unless I have to be in a courtroom, I can do everything from my computer. For you, it's different. You need to show people the home. People need to come in person and deal with it face to face. Let's talk about maybe some of the things that you've done to put your buyers and sellers at ease, because it is COVID. Everyone's freaking out, right? And they're worrying about being in person and doing these kinds of things. What has your industry done to adjust? And what kind of steps have you taken to be virtual and assist people so that they can still be comfortable with the process?
Yeah, no, good question. So one, obviously, like every other company, we have Zoom meetings. So for home buyer consultations, we used to conduct home buyer consultations in the office, and they're still available for people that are comfortable to come in. Yeah. And we have a big conference room, like your massive conference room here. Yeah. You can fit like 40 people here, have a cocktail party.
I mean, we could. Well, it's COVID, only 20.
All right, because you have to be 6 feet apart. But we can still have cocktails.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we do have that option, but we do all virtual home buyer consultations for people that are not comfortable. But at the end of the day, at some point, those people have to be around me, and these are a lot of times they're strangers. They end up being clients and friends when we first meet. So we take all the good, the normal precautions. I have tons of hand sanitizer that I stocked up with during COVID. We have masks, and also California Association of Realtors in conjunction with National Association of Realtors, they came up with the best practices and all these rules. It basically just common sense, right? Yeah. So we don't do open houses anymore, right? You can't do open houses.
You can't do them.
No, you cannot.
Let's talk about that for a second. So you can't legally do an open house right now.
No, you will get the DRE does drive-by inspections if they see open house signs, and if they do come to the property and you're having an open house and just letting people through and not practicing the safety guidelines, you can get fined, and I'm sure other penalties.
So open house means like where you have a bunch of people come check out the house for an entire day, but people can still go look at the home before they purchase it, right?
Correct. So everything's by appointment only right now.
Okay.
And every time we show a home, we have to sign a safety waiver saying that we haven't had a fever within 14 days, and just a long list of things. You haven't had a cough, and sign your life away before every single time you show a home. Most people are providing sanitizer at the properties. Some are providing booties and gloves, but at the end of the day, we're carrying around we're sanitizing before we go in. We're sanitizing when we come out. We're wearing gloves, wearing masks. We're also, we're not gathering close. We're only like 3. Usually, it's only 3 people in a house. Yeah. Some places are very specific on how many can go in at one time. So it's just all the basic safety guidelines to make clients comfortable.
Okay, awesome. And are you guys finding any trouble with that? Are some people freaking out? Do they still not want to go in person? Let me ask a better question. Have you sold any homes without somebody checking out the house?
No, we have not. No, we have not. I'm trying to think, have we? No, we haven't seen, completely not seeing it. No. And I'm very skeptical about doing that, period. We've done it a couple times with out-of-state buyers and stuff like that, but it is I'm sure you could imagine from your standpoint, selling a home sight unseen, from my standpoint as a broker, is a scary thing.
Sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen. I mean,
you have to call you.
Yeah, you have to call me. So that's good. That's funny. But yeah, no, I've heard of some people that have been doing that, and I'm like, just be careful, right? You want to make sure, like, if you are going to do something like that, have a specific clause in your contract which says, hey, you did not see this property. You are acknowledging that. Make them initial 17 times by that clause and say you're still deciding to buy this home. You're waiving your right to sue me for any issues here. Right. But I mean, it's a wild time. I mean, I can tell you right now, like, I used to meet most of my clients face to face, right? They would want to come, see each other. Since the pandemic started, I haven't met one person face to face. Not only that, but usually I like to give the settlement checks to my clients, right? At the end of it, they're like, no, mail me my checks. So I am like a completely digital law firm, Nobody wants to meet face to face. Nobody wants to come see you in person. And there's a couple of my clients that are like, no, we don't even need to do a Zoom call. We'll just do phone calls with you. I've never even seen them face to face. It's a wild world that we're living in, a completely different dynamic. And it's like almost like social media and like all these like tendencies that we have in the world. People are like, I don't want to even talk to people. I don't want to see people face to face. I want to stay in my little box. Yeah. I want to watch my TV. I want to go to my computer. I want to go to my cell phone, and I don't want to see human beings. And they're like comfortable with that. And that's what they enjoy.
Yeah, I've seen both sides of it, right? Yeah. I've also seen the side in our office where people can't wait to come into the office and be and interact. You know, I had, and a lot of clients of mine, they're just so homesick. They're sick of working at home, and then at the end of the day, walking to the next bedroom and spending all their time at the home.
Dude, I understand. I get it. It's tough. You're like walking around in circles at your house, going from your office to your bedroom to your living room. It's like I'm a huge face-to-face person. I can't stand it. You know, one thing too, I remember talking to your wife actually recently when we were hanging out. She was saying that one other thing that I didn't realize, of course, because I don't have kids yet, but you do. Kids are excited to go back to school for the first time ever.
Oh my God, it's funny.
Yeah, so I want to hear a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, you know, in the beginning, of course, they're excited. They don't have to go to school, but they love seeing their friends. And once they, you don't see your friends. You don't have they like their routine too. They're just, they're not adult. They're mini adults. You know, like they need the routine and all that stuff. So when our kids went back to school, they were literally so happy. They couldn't wait to go to school. They were excited, and when they came home, they were just talking about how they missed all their friends and their teachers, and like it's like their own little world. You know, it's not good for them to be at home.
No,
just forget the health standpoint, like the mental development and just social development that you need. People are meant to be in community.
I agree.
You can I do not believe you can ever do a whole virtual world.
No.
Not if you want to have a normal world.
I hope we don't ever have a whole virtual world. I think it would have to take something pretty drastic. I mean, we've seen what a pandemic does, right? This is pretty close to as whole virtual as you're going to be. But I mean, I went to a wedding recently, and people are still living their lives. Just be respectful. It's a different climate. You just have to kind of be respectful of everybody's needs and wants.
I agree. I think it's very important to, if people aren't comfortable, respect it. Don't get mad. Don't judge. You never know people's situation. It's also, I think, very wrong to impose major restrictions on people that they don't want imposed on them. And I think that's the balance that we're a little bit losing.
Yeah.
And
because I've heard like other states, like in Texas and stuff, like everything's open. All the businesses are open. Just everyone's required to wear a mask, right? It's like you allow business to move on. You allow people to move on. Just once again, follow the regulations, and everything should be perfectly fine. But we're just like locked down. And that, the psychological effects I'm sure we're going to see down the road are going to be crazy, especially on these kids that the schools are refusing to open up again, right? They're going to have a year, 2 years of their life where they had to sit at home with their parents while their parents are working in the living room, and they can't even leave their bedrooms, and they're told to play video games for 10 hours a day.
Oh man, it's actually a really sad thing. And there's a few situations we've talked to people about recently where there's some people that, if the schools aren't back to work, and it's not a family where maybe the parents speak English as their primary language, and the kids are young, they're at home by themselves all day because the parents have to work. These may not be the safest neighborhoods. And then on top of that, they come home, the kids need help with their homework. It might be mathematics, it might be whatever subject, science.
They don't know how to help them.
Their parents can't help them. They do not understand. They were not taught these. And these kids are literally losing fundamental building blocks at a young age. Talk about having a disadvantage in 10 years. When you're trying to compete for colleges and get the best grades, it's really sad.
Yeah, it's definitely wild. All right, so I know we've gone a little bit off topic here, but I want to get back on topic. So let's talk about, so you're a real estate agent, and you're also a real estate broker.
Yeah.
So I want to explain to people, what is the difference between a real estate agent? What is the difference between a real estate broker? What does that mean? And kind of explain that. And then we're going to get into how we can help people, or how you help people into the process of buying homes.
Yep. So in California, a broker is the only one who could actually buy and sell a home, period.
Okay.
So every real estate agent must work for a real estate broker.
Okay. When you say work under your license, is that how it works?
Correct. So there's in the Department of Real Estate, there's a real estate broker license, and there's a real estate agent license. There's different educational requirements and experience requirements.
Let's get into those a little bit.
Okay. So as a real estate, you have to take 8 courses. I can't even remember. It's been so long, honestly. And they changed it. They upped it a little. They should up it even more, actually.
Yeah.
I think that the requirements to become a broker are way too low. I think that formal college, some sort of formal education should be required, as well as a lot of on-the-job experience. But we can get into that maybe. Sidebar. But in general, I believe I had to take 8 courses and 150 question test. Honestly, easy.
For the broker?
For the broker's license.
Okay, got it.
At that time, when I got my broker's license, I didn't even have to have working experience. If I had a college education, it waived the requirement, which is ridiculous.
Okay.
But I got my broker's license right out the gate. You can't do that anymore. Now you have to have, I think, at least 2 years working experience as a real estate agent before getting a real estate broker license. But essentially, they're the same courses.
Yeah.
You just take 100, I think it's 100 question test versus 150 question test. Or
got it.
Maybe
but it's a lot of the same information.
It's all the same.
Understood. Yeah, I remember actually watching a presentation that a real estate agent made in one of my networking groups recently. She said a manicurist has to do 500 hours of on-the-job training, but like to become a real estate agent, you only have to do 45 hours of like training or some of classes to like get the license, and it's wild.
It's a joke, really, and it's there's reasons. They have huge lobbying groups. There's a lot of money in keeping the licensing requirements very low because, as you said, everyone and their mother has had, will have, or currently has a real estate license. And I always make a joke that nobody chooses to become no one grows up and like, I'm going to be a real estate agent when I grow up. Like, when's the last time? I'm probably like the only person that I know that wanted to be a real estate agent.
That's funny.
It's like everyone either, and I say this in a half joking manner, like, failed at everything else. And then they're like, you know what, let's do real estate. Like, the requirements are so low, and then you can make a 7-figure income. And then it looks so glamorous, right?
But it's a hustle. It's a grind.
Oh, it is not for most people. Whenever I interview agents, I try to scare them off because it really is it's just a lot of my time to train people. And the failure rate is astronomically high. I mean, I think one of the statistics is like, 50% of licensed agents did 0 transactions the previous year. It's most people think they can just get a deal here and there, but it's a very competitive field, right? It's a sales job at the end of the day from a prospecting perspective, not from when I have a client perspective. When I have a client, they're my client. I have a different responsibility, but to get a client,
it's hard.
That's you got to be a hunter, right?
I get it, dude. I mean, I'm PI. Personal injury is the most competitive marketing in the entire world. And if you look online in Newport Beach, there's probably about 100 personal injury law firms just in Newport Beach. And it's really about building a brand. It's hustling. It's getting out there. People are like, okay, I trust this guy. I'm going to work with this guy. And no matter how much your marketing is good, that's great. But really, when it comes to the best cases, all of my best cases are word of mouth referrals. They're all friends. They're all family, or there's somebody that trusts me and know that I'm going to get the job done for them. And it's just like anything, right? If you want to create a good business, you have to really have good people, because that's where the best business is going to come from.
Yeah, and you're in Newport Beach, or Newport Beach and surrounding area.
Yeah.
So you're competing against the brightest, the most competitive people in one of the most competitive markets in probably all of the world. Yeah. So you really have to hustle. You got to have thick skin. Yeah. And you know how that is. Yeah. It's the same in real estate. You've got some of the highest priced real estate in the world. Yeah. Everybody wants to sell homes here. Yeah. So people that think they're just going to come in, get a new car, go to Starbucks and talk on their phone and watch Bravo, it just doesn't work like that. Yeah. So from the licensing perspective, basically every real estate agent must work for a broker. So essentially every single agent in my office, I'm responsible for every single one of their transactions. Yeah. And it's even interesting, if we didn't even get into dual agency, but I'm like, in the eyes of the law, I'm responsible to know if there was a transaction that was done by one agent and another transaction done by another agent, and there was 2 things that happened in those transactions that were lessons learned through like vicarious liability through me, they both have to. They can each get in trouble if they didn't learn those lessons too. So essentially, I literally have to oversee every single transaction.
You're responsible for everyone that works for you.
And it's a very high standard. So I actually take the job very seriously when I see, just real estate agents going out there and treating it like a sales job. I just look, oh my God, you can get in so much trouble if one thing goes wrong, just bad luck, and a couple things don't go your way, you could get a huge lawsuit.
Yeah, no, it's a nightmare. I mean, same thing for me, like my employees, right? Paralegals, case managers, it doesn't matter. They do something wrong, they're not in trouble. My license is on the line, and that's the thing that's most important. I think it's important when you're hiring people that you explain to them the severity, because you're the one that has everything on the hook here. They might get an infraction, they might get a little bit of trouble, but you're just as much on the hook as they are.
Yeah, and in California, you don't have to. You can sue for anything, pretty much.
Yeah, you can sneeze wrong and you can get a lawsuit sent your way. That's pretty much how it works here. I get calls all day long from people like, "Can I sue for this reason?" I'm like, "Yes." Do you want to waste your time? Like everybody just like they see all these crazy judgments online. They see all this crazy shit, and they're like, "Oh, well, I saw this person got $10 million for that." I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't see the 4,000 other things that person did wrong for that one person to get that amount of money." They just think that all lawsuits mean you're going to get a shit ton of money. It's going to cost them nothing, and it's just going to be easy peasy, but that's just not how it is.
Yeah, you're like, you didn't see that guy's missing his arm.
Yeah, it's tough for sure. So let's go back. So you said for real estate agents, it seems like it's about a couple hours of schooling plus a 100-question test, and then for get a broker's license, basically it's more hours of training, and then it's about 150 question test.
They're like 45-hour college level courses that you can take online. There's you have to take 3 of them for a real estate license, agent license, and then I think it's like 5 or 8 for a broker's license.
Got it.
And for a broker, you also have the experience requirement. But that is honestly, think about this. You could be, 21 years old, 22 years old, whatever. You could be 50 years old, but you just got your real estate license.
Yeah.
And you could sell a $50 million home.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem it's not.
That's why they need people like you to help them out. Make sure that you're watching the whole process. That's good.
Yeah. There's a lot of. But you really need to know about you need to know a little bit about a lot in real estate, and know when to defer to the professionals in each of those trades when things go above your level of expertise, or just what you should and shouldn't be talking about. So for example, we get asked a lot of legal questions.
Yeah.
And we get asked a lot of tax questions.
Yeah.
And we really need to know how to stay in our lane on those things.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to want to talk and be the hero and tell them, oh, you can do this, but you should never do that.
No, I agree entirely. I get calls all the time because I do some general counsel stuff, and people always ask, well, what type of entity should I set up? I'm like, well, these are the legal reasons, but really it comes down to a tax question. They're like, well, what is the best? I'm like, call your CPA, call your tax person. That's the person to ask those questions, and make sure you stay in your lane. You don't want to overstep, and then somebody comes back on you later, and now you're dealing with that lawsuit later on down the road, and something that you could have easily avoided if you just put them in the direction of the person that's supposed to answer those questions.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So how many times do you see lawsuits that are just ego-based lawsuits?
So luckily, I have a really good relationship with my clients. I think that it really depends. If you have a client that's extremely wealthy and out of spite, they are willing to put tens of thousands of dollars towards making sure that they prove a point on a case that might be only worth a couple $1,000s, they will do it. Typically, I'll get a lot of these phone calls, and I'm a huge advocate for being intentional with your time and your energy, okay? Because your energy is your time, right? So I tell my clients, look, fuck that guy. They screwed you over. You obviously were wronged. Now, do you want to spend the next 2 years of your life to prove a point that maybe no one is going to see just to make this guy's life miserable? Or do you want to take that time and energy and all that money and do something brand new and move on with your life? And when I put it in a perspective like that, I don't think a lot of attorneys do that because they just want to be paid their $400 or $500 an hour, which is great. Screw those guys, and that's why we have a bad name in the industry, because they go, my attorney screwed me over, because you called and asked for this. But at the same time, people don't realize how much time and energy goes into a lawsuit. Like, I'm having to depose everybody that's in the company. I'm gonna have to spend a bunch of money on discovery, and all of that time and energy is where you could take that and put it towards something that's positive and good and move in a new direction, or you're going to be stuck in the past dealing with this person that screwed you over just to prove a point. So there are those people, and I've done 1 or 2 of those lawsuits, and luckily we settled early, but it's just a waste of everyone's time, energy. Like, your soul is really what it eats into, because now you're just fucking stuck. Until this is over, you're gonna be stuck here and you can't move on with your life. So luckily it's not that often for me, but there has been a couple times where people are so angry and they're so spiteful that they're like, I don't care. I'm going to go after that person. I'm going to make their life miserable. So I think it really depends on the attorney that you work with. I know other guys that are just civil litigators. That's what they do for a living. They basically sue people because no one wins at the end but the attorneys in those cases. I think it's highway robbery when you charge somebody $400 or $500 an hour. And I get it. Sometimes it's worth the value, but that's why I love working on contingency, right? So we work on a contingency, which means I get paid when the job is done. That means I did the work, I did a great job, and I get paid. I even do this with my so I act as general counsel for some of my friends' businesses. I don't like to get paid. I don't make people give me a retainer. When I finish the work, I have them pay me. I've had one client in the last 5 years not pay me my money, and this person went bankrupt and they had no money. So like I'm not stressed about it, but I think it's a better way of having a relationship with people, because then at the end, if you feel like you didn't accomplish the goals they asked you to accomplish, I will take a pay cut just to make people feel better, like they're not getting robbed. So I think it's a different way of approaching things.
Yeah, so in other words, you have an incentive to take on work where you think that you can provide a value and get them the result that they want. Yeah. Otherwise, you don't need to waste your time.
Absolutely. And same thing with you guys. You work on commissions, right? If you don't get the job done, you don't get paid. I think that's how the whole world should be, in my opinion. It's like you accomplished the goal, you did what you said you're going to do, now you earn the money that you deserve, right? And so it's a different way of looking at things. And I think too, especially in industries like ours where it's thousands and thousands of dollars to hire somebody, right? And sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, I think it's better to work on these commission or contingency bases. Now, luckily on me, I kind of have a fall safe. So for you, you don't have a fall safe, meaning that if something goes wrong, I'm still entitled to my reasonable hourly rate. Let's say if a client wasted a year of my life and then decided to bounce on me, I still can put a lien on the case and get my hourly rate. For you, if somebody doesn't go through with your deal, you don't make any money. That's it.
Correct. Unless you create a consulting side of the business or branch out into some other avenue of real estate, whether it be consulting or education or whatever. Right. If you're just in sales, you need to have people buying and selling homes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's honestly, it's different dynamic, but I also like this mentality. I think you too, you're a hustler. I like doing a fucking good job and feeling like I earned the money that I made for my client, right? And that's something that I think a lot of people like. It's a certain type of individual, and I think that's probably something that you've done a really good job of vetting those types of individuals when they come to work for you. So let's talk about when you have somebody come work for your company, right? And you're looking for a certain type of person. I know that, like you pointed out, when you train somebody, that's your time you're putting into them. So you want to make sure they're likable, they're going to stick around, they're not just going to take your knowledge and peace out on you. Like, what are the things you look for when you're bringing somebody into your brokerage?
Yep. First of all, someone who's not scared off. And it's easy to make it sound glamorous, so I try to make it not sound glamorous. But the problem is, I think people just can't get those images out of their head from the TV shows that they watch. So I found that doesn't really work. To kind of like backtrack a little bit, your education was probably very expensive, right?
Yeah.
And, and now you have a profession, and you put your time and your money into that education, and you've got a profession, you're building this beautiful career. In real estate, it's not necessarily, how much does it cost me? A few $100 to get that education, right? But I got 15 years of paid in time, equity, and I don't even know how much that cost.
Of course, it's invaluable.
The way that I look at it is, and I tell people, it's the same way. If I were to go become a doctor or a lawyer, that's probably how much it cost me. Right?
Yeah, to get that education, 100%.
Now I'm going to pass that along to somebody.
Yeah.
So number one, now I am making money, and I love teaching talented people. It really is actually one of my joys, is to teach good people how to do the job, because I think we need more mentors in every aspect of life, not only in professional and personal life. So people that have gone through it need to teach the younger people or the aspiring people to do that job a very good way, right? Not be selfish with our time. I'm happy to do that, but I need the right individual. So that's always my mentality when I'm looking at it, because I'm like, wow, I've got a lot. I'm going to teach this person how to possibly make $1 million.
Yeah.
I need someone that's committed. So that's what I look for first, is a commitment. So I'll usually put them through a few little, stupid exercises. Like I'll make them interview with at least 2 other brokerages.
Yeah.
That's usually the first step. If they don't do that, it's over.
Why do you make them do that?
Because if they can be convinced, they're going to get sold all day long. Because look, right now they're newly. Stumbling here. I usually are bringing on brand new licensed agents from scratch. the reason why I like that is because they're a blank slate. They don't have bad habits. I can teach them the way I want. The bad news for me is it might take them a little while to get up and running, but when they're up and running, like all of the agents in our office, they are amazing agents. I would go as far as saying that we probably have some of the best agents in Orange County. And I don't care if people have been in the business for 30 years.
Yeah.
Most of our agents probably know the purchase contract better than 30-year veterans because they're forced to read it. I explained it to them. I sit on the board at the Pacific West Association of Realtors, sit through arbitrations. I've sat through mediations. I make it a habit to know what I'm doing and be really good at what I do and pass that on. So they're going to be sold. So they're making nothing. Then they're going to be making a lot of money one day. Like my agents are getting recruited all day, every day by other brokers trying to hire them because now they're making money. So the broker's like, well, that guy did all the training. Let me give them a higher split. I'll give you some free marketing. And they're trying to recruit my agents all day long. Luckily, our retention rate is in the high 90s.
That's amazing.
They don't leave.
Most companies, they're lucky to be over 50%.
Correct. Very high turnover. And so if they can be convinced when they're making no money, they have no value, and they're getting swayed and sold by brokers who just want to throw them into a classroom training because, for their model, it's like, hey, bring in 100 people. If 10 survive, they don't care. Yeah. Whereas my model's not like that. I need high quality people.
It's quality, or it's quantity over quality for them. Your quality over quantity.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, if they can be convinced by having 2 interviews, I'm saving myself a lot of time.
That's genius. That's really, really smart. I'm going to probably take that and use it with my people when I'm interviewing for people for my next job. Be like, go talk to 2 other firms. If you like them better than I do, you should probably go work for them. And, I think it's really about finding where people fit in the best, right? And one thing that we did in the last year is just defining your core values, I think is a huge part of it, right? So it might not be the first interview, but maybe the second interview or the third where you go, these are the things that we're about. Do you feel that you aspire to these things? Do you feel that these are things that, you really relate to? Because if not, this is not a right fit for you. We're a family, right? And because at the same one thing that I'm realizing as I'm getting older is I spend more time with my employees than I do my family and my friends. So if you're not surrounding yourself by people that are really uplifting and wanting the same things as you, desire the same things as you, and aspire to do the same things as you probably need to cut the cord. I've had that realization before in the past, and I've let those people go, and it's something you need to do quickly. And so I now, in my mind, the next couple of people that I hire, I want people that are as not similar to me, but that believe in the same things that I do, because it's so important. Because when people are all rowing a boat the same direction and the same speed, you're going to get there a lot faster. If people, kind of have the same idea and they're rowing along and they get it, but they're not on the same page, you're not going to get your destination as quickly.
You're absolutely right, and it's hard to find people that are in that same category.
Yeah.
But you can never weed everybody out.
Yeah.
But at least you can get rid of the easy low-hanging fruits pretty easily.
Yeah, I know that's one of the reasons that Elon Musk has such successful companies is one of his biggest things is his interview process. He interviews everybody that works for Tesla.
That's pretty amazing.
I have a couple of friends that work for him. They said he was interviewed, the last interview, Elon Musk is there, and he sits there and he talks to them. It's because your company, at the end of the day, is one thing I'm also realizing, your company is not your company. Your company is the people that work for it. So if everybody is not good and they're not all stars, you will not have an all-star and you will not have a good company. That's really what it comes down to. So it's super important to infuse either your values or what the values are of your company, and it starts with defining them. The fact that you just put aspire down on paper is a huge step that 90% of companies never even take. They go, oh, we're about this, we're about that, but only the owner knows we are about that and you're about this, which doesn't mean shit. You need everybody to understand this is what we're about, this is what we do, and this is how you do it. And so it's great that you take so much time to do that, and I think that's why you probably have had so much more success more than other brokerages.
Yeah, and everybody defines success differently, but really when I look at it really brings the glue between the agents and me. Really you've got to be a follower before you can be a leader, right? So at the end of the day, I'm there for them, right? I'm there to support them. I care about every single person's success in that office, and they know that. I mean, if I have to be on a phone call at midnight because there's a check that is dependent on it and it's their check, and I'm going to take the time out of my day. And when you define these values and you act in that, so anybody can put something on paper, but it really comes down to the actions.
Absolutely.
And those actions, they happen over years, and everybody sees it. And what's amazing, what's really probably the biggest compliment that I could ever see is how I see them treating each other and the new agents in the office, because it's just because they got that. When we get a new agent in the office, people will take time out of their day. Salespeople will take time out of their day to train and teach the new guy. Yeah. And when I saw that happening, that was an effect I didn't even think about.
Yeah.
But I'm like looking at them like, that doesn't happen. You know, when they're sharing their secrets, when they're sharing leads, when they're prospecting together, or just taking time to answer questions, that doesn't happen in sales offices. You know, nobody's sharing anything.
No, I agree. Yeah, no, it's so true. But, you know, a lot of the books that I've been reading lately, it's all about like talking about, do your employees get along with each other? Can they depend on each other, right? And a lot of times just asking your employees, hey, what do you think about this person, or what do you think about what's going on there? It's a lot of times you'll already feel it, right? But when you get it kind of confirmed by somebody else, and then like, you know, you need to address that problem, or you need to cut that person out, right? That's also something that you need to realize as you go forward. But it seems like in your team, since because you've been such a good person to your people that you've trained, they are now trickling down to everybody else and treating everyone the same way that you treat them.
Yes, and to the extent that when things happen on their own without me even asking, I was just telling you before we started, my escrow officer, she had an emergency appendicitis, had to leave on Tuesday, just had to drive. I mean, she had to go, obviously, but in having an escrow company, and you have closings happening, and with escrow laws and stuff, I mean, you can't hold on to funds. You need to disperse within a certain amount of time. Yeah. And on the other hand, just think about people waiting for their money. You know, someone sold their home, and they might be buying another home. Yeah. You know, if they're waiting for, it doesn't matter if it's $50,000 or $1 million. It really doesn't matter. Yeah, that money is their money. And so they're waiting for it. She was in the hospital. I don't know how to use the escrow. I'm not an escrow officer, right? I mean, I know what I'm supposed to do. I manage the office, but at the end of the day, I have very good people that know what they're doing. 10 times better at doing escrows than I am, right? Yeah. Otherwise, why would they need? Why, you know? So I'm in a rock and a hard place on Tuesday. So our other escrow officer, who used to be our previous escrow officer, she now works virtually in Arizona. She's our transaction coordinator. She literally voluntarily flew in overnight, first flight on Tuesday, because she knew that Ashley, our escrow officer, would be stressed out if it wasn't someone that she trusted handling her files. Because I was going to have to hire a temp agency. Yeah. But on her own, flew over the next flight, the next day. That's amazing. And she's here handling all the escrows.
That's amazing.
I mean, that kind of stuff and she doesn't like flying, by the way. No. And COVID on a plane. Yeah. And, you know, it was just
that's amazing.
Really heartwarming that they just took that initiative. I didn't even ask her. Yeah. She just said, I'm going to come over. I'm going to hop on a flight.
This is amazing. I mean, I do escrow deals as like one of the other things that I do as an attorney. It's not something I advertise, but I've helped friends like in big transactions. And you're so true. When that money's supposed to be sent, everybody's sitting there with like a gun ready to shoot you if that money does not transfer at that time. Yeah. And I've done like a couple $1 million deals too, and same thing. I'm getting a phone call, text message every 5 minutes. Where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? And so, you know, I want to talk about what an escrow company is for sure in the real estate industry. And, you know, what exactly does an escrow company do? Is it something that you've had personal skill with, or did you just create this branch of the brokerage?
Yeah. So, okay. So there's an escrow company in general is an independent, it's a third party, in part, doesn't take sides. If there's a buyer and a seller in a real estate transaction, they hold the money, they follow the contract, they only do what the contract says, they can only take direction from the buyer and seller, and essentially if there's a dispute, if there's a dispute, they can only do something if there's a mutual agreement, judicial decision, or arbitration award, period. And that's basically the terms of the purchase contract. Yeah. Essentially, the purchase contract itself, if you read the California Residential Purchase Agreement, at the top it says Residential Purchase Agreement and Joint Escrow Instructions. So essentially, the purchase contract are the escrow instructions, but we just hire a third party in California to hold the money and make sure that everybody does what they're supposed to do. And then, you know, the title company who's insuring the deal, when they say, yep, all the check boxes have been marked, they'll give the authorization to escrow. Escrow will release funds and send the deed to be recorded at the county and make sure that everything's done nice and clean. Yeah.
So I want to comment on this because I do this too, you know, to the transactions that I've done. This is a very, very stressful part of the transaction, okay? Because we have a lot of things that we could get potentially sued for, right? The escrow company has a lot of problems. If they don't do things exactly like the contract says, if they release money too soon, if they don't release money when they should, if they don't follow exactly what the guidelines are, these are huge problems homes, and these are huge legal liabilities that they can deal with. Typically, I know they have huge insurance policies to deal with this stuff, but what I'm getting at is that this is a very important part of the job. Why did you start your own escrow company? Was it to help your brokerage, or was it just because did it help you guys out, or why did you do it?
Yeah, so in real estate brokerage in general, there's not huge margins. You're not making tons of money on your agents. At some point, they'll just go find another broker no matter how great I am. Yeah. Right? So there's very slim margins on that. So escrow is another income stream, right? And you should never only do things for the money, but obviously every major brokerage has an escrow company, and that's, I
didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's really more of the money making machine. But on top of that, it allows you to funnel more money back into the brokerage and reinvest and put more marketing material. So it's an income stream that allows you to reinvest, and essentially it becomes a good machine, making more things possible, right?
Do you have like a title company too, or is that part of it? Or
no, we haven't. You have to be pretty big to partner up with a title company, and that's a whole nother type of partnership and licensing.
No, but I love the idea. It's all about like assimilating vertically and horizontally, right? It's like if you can do something within your industry and it can be money that you can keep within house, why would you be sending it out? I know like one of my friends, he's one of my most wealthy friends. His family, they actually own Cuties, the little oranges, the mandarin oranges. And so they were already making hundreds of millions of dollars off of Cuties. Like there's no shortage of cash. But his dad was like, I don't like our manufacturing. I don't like how this shit's being done. I don't like our IT. Our technology is back in the old ages. And so what they did is they started figuring out how to do the manufacturing, like putting the packaging and everything better than the major companies that were doing it. So now they're the person that people go to. And then what they did is they're like, okay. So his son is like a super genius. He's one of my best friends. He's like, when it comes to like knowing technology, just super genius. So he figured out how to create farming technology to allow for better IT for all these farms. So they were making all this money off Cuties. Now they're selling it, and they are becoming the person. So they don't have to do anything anymore. They just do the packaging and they do the IT, which is something that every farmer needs. And so they found a way to like vertically and horizontally assimilate and find processes and make it better than what everybody else was doing. So I think if there's ways for you to bring it in-house, right, it's amazing. I know like an attorney that's a friend of mine. So every attorney, for example, when we get major surgeries, we usually have a company fund the surgeries for our clients. Like let's say it's a spinal fusion, that's $200,000. So there's attorneys that will put the money forward and they make an interest rate. They're basically like a lender. And so every PI attorney does this. So I have two of my attorney friends that are made a bunch of money from being attorneys, and like, well, why don't we just fund these things and make 10, 20% on every loan? Because the interest rates are pretty astronomical on these things. And they found a way to assimilate there. And then I found another attorney, right? He found a way to buy all these liens, and then they hold these liens with all these treatments. Like basically, if you can find a way to further expand what you're already doing, right? And I'm sure that you probably do escrow for other brokerages too now, don't you? Or do you just do it for your guys?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So yes, back to what you said. I would never do anything only for the money. It had to bring value to the business and to the agent. So that's why we didn't do it for the first 3-4 years. At some point, we knew it was the right time, and we made the jump, and we did it. So now we can provide a better service to our clients, especially obviously on the listing side.
The process is better now.
Now, there's two types of escrow licenses. So under the Department of Real Estate, as a broker, I don't need a separate license to handle the escrow as long as I'm party to the transaction. So if I'm representing a seller, if it's our in-house listing, we can do the broker because we're party to the transaction. If we're on the buyer side, and usually the sellers get to dictate which companies, which services, but if we're on the buyer side too, and we convince them to use our brokerage for the escrow, we can do an escrow, no separate license needed. Now, that being said, I cannot handle another person's. So if it's another agent purchase another company, we cannot do the escrow in our office. That's a separate license. That's regulated under the Department of Business Oversight, and it's called an independent escrow.
Got it.
So there's broker-owned escrows, broker-controlled escrows, and then there's independent escrows.
So it has to be somebody that a transaction that you're a part of in some way.
Yes,
got
correct.
It. So you don't have an independent broker or escrow license, but that is something. Is it hard to get that license?
So we're actually in the process of licensing right now. So we will be providing that. So our escrow company is now going to be expanding. We're going to be transitioning to an independent escrow. The processing and the licensing and the costs involved are astronomical. That's why we just never did it. But now we're at the point where there's a lot of benefits and we have a lot of great relationships and people like our service. So we're going to take that next step to where we can do outside escrows and also refinance escrows too, not just purchase transactions.
Got it. And so escrow, when people are buying a home or they're getting a new place, right, escrow fees are typically rolled into the closing costs by the loan officers, correct? What is a typical closing cost for using an escrow company? I just have no idea what it is.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So there's a lot of miscellaneous. So usually standard kind of is like $250 base fee. So we start with $250 base, and then it's anywhere between $2 and $2.25 per $1,000 in value. So for $1 million home, you're talking about $2,250 or $2,000 plus the $250 flat fee, so $2,250, and then there's miscellaneous fees of, I don't know, $300 to $500 depending if you have a loan.
About 0.2%.
Yeah.
Right around that range.
That's for buyer and seller each.
Yeah.
So combined, it could be like a $5,000 escrow for $1 million purchase.
Yeah, and I know for me too, same thing. When I do my transactions, based on the size of the transaction, I will either raise or lower, but usually my rates are anywhere between 0.5 to 1%, depending on what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's about the same.
Yeah, and we have bulk rate pricing. So once it starts going into like above 1.25 million, we drop the escrow fee in half. So if it's a $10 million purchase, you're not paying that same rate for the whole $10 million.
Because it doesn't make sense. Because then, you're going to be paying $20,000 instead.
It would be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice.
People aren't that dumb.
Trust me, I've done like a $10 million transaction. Same thing. I lowered, like it went down to like 0.2 or 0.1%. So it really depends on the transaction itself, of course. So yeah, that's interesting. Okay, cool.
But there's a lot of regulation involved in DBO independent licenses, and the insurance rates are crazy. There's a lot of audits that are required. There's a lot of money that you have to put out up front, and you have to, so there's a lot more that goes into it, and rightfully so, because there's just so many scams with escrow companies, and people don't realize this, and a lot of people unfortunately lose money to these things. So you got to be careful.
That's wild. Okay, so it's been 1 hour. So I want to talk about, because we have not gotten into this yet. So you guys obviously sell homes. You guys help people buy homes, sell, either or. What are some of the things when people come to you and they're like, I want to buy a home? Let's say they're a first-time home buyer, because I think a lot of listeners here, many people are still not home buyers, right? They haven't gone down that road and they haven't dived down that. What are the things that you tell people they need to start thinking about, where they should start looking? Like, what is the general advice that you give to people so that they can start thinking about what they should put together?
So I always start by asking people lots of questions, because number one, I really need to understand their frame of mind and what they're trying to accomplish before I can. And I usually don't give the same advice to every person. So I'm a big proponent of breaking down where they're at, where do they want to go, and then I'll give them advice.
So you get to know who they are first.
Absolutely.
Got it. So instead of just like, oh, hey, I want to buy this place, you go, well, let's talk about why you want to buy this place. Let's talk about what you're doing. Are you trying to live there? Is it an investment? Is it a rental property? Is it a vacation home? Because you want to figure out really who they are, because it's going to allow you to figure out what's best for them. Okay.
I mean, best example, like a couple examples I gave, like how many times if somebody came to you and like, this is what I want to do, John, I want to sue this guy over here, or this is how I want to do this. What's your purpose then? It's
important to know what the actual goals are. Is it monetary? Is it spite? Is it gotcha.
If I go to a doctor, I'm like, hey, I'm sick, do this to me or give me this medicine. Okay, what's the point of that? If I just listen to what people tell me to do without giving recommendations, asking them questions, then I am useless. How many times have you been in front of a real estate agent at anywhere, cocktail party, anywhere? They usually give so many answers before they ask a single damn question. It drives me crazy. I'm like, really? Oh, yep, it's definitely the right time to buy or sell. Really? Like, do you even know this person's situation? Do you even know? I mean, how do you know? It's not always the right time to do anything. No. Everybody's situation is very different, and you really got to break it down, figure out what they're trying to do, and then help them accomplish that. I've told people many times, I don't think you should sell. Or I don't think you should buy, or you should wait. So sorry, I don't have like a very clear answer, but my
that's a good answer.
I break it down. We have a consultation. We have a home buyer. So for buyers, one thing I do, and I try to do this with everybody, even seasoned buyers, but I have a home buyer consultation. I built it up over the past 10 years. It's like an 80-page booklet. It goes through everything from the contract, what to expect from electronic signatures, market conditions, closing costs, financing, inspections, the most common things you find on an inspection report, cancellation rights, what happens.
And do you give this to people, or is this something you just go over with them?
Yes, we do give it to them once we work on buyer representation agreements. So just like there are listing agreements in real estate and everybody signs a listing agreement when they're selling a home, most brokerages don't work on buyer representation agreements. We do, because it's very clear. I want to make sure that we're hired and we can be fired if we don't do the job right. So when they sign the buyer representation agreement, they get the booklet too. So it's something that we provide to all of our clients. And the reason why, especially on the buyer side, is most lawsuits are from buyer side, right? On the selling side,
I didn't know that.
And then a lot of them have to do with procuring cause or non-disclosure issues. But on the listing side, I don't know how. I mean, it's got to be like almost 100% of homes that are sold have a listing contract in place.
Yeah.
Not on the buyer side. A lot of agents just go out and show homes. So what happens when you walk into an open house and you make an offer through the listing agent, but I was the one who'd been working with you for 6 months and educated you and sent you to that property? There's going to be 2 agents getting into a lawsuit possibly.
Yeah.
And now you're involved. So, and we try to make it very clear by providing value education. So one thing we do on every single file is provide a home buyer consultation.
Okay.
And that's huge in building the relationship. But then in that consultation at the end, when we've educated them, it's like we have a chat. Okay, what are you looking for? Where, why, how much? And we have that whole.
Well, I want to go back to, the first part of this conversation. I think, some of the wisest people on the planet, one of my favorite sayings is it's smarter to listen with 2 ears and speak with 1 mouth, right? If you really want to help people accomplish their goals and you want to do the best job for them, you need to hear what they want or what they're trying to accomplish. If you don't ask those questions, because like anything, there might, money or like certain things might not be the most important thing. It might be, I want to be in a school district. I want to, this is an investment property.
Right.
No, this is, we're only going to be here for 2 years. So we need some place that's maybe $200,000 cheaper. And it's really listening to people and seeing what their goals are. And I think that's amazing. I think that's a really smart thing that you teach people, because I think most people are just teaching how to close, how to make a sale. And that's like, you listen to people like Grant Cardone all day, or these people that are online. It's like, great, yeah, closing is awesome, and that's always great, and that's something you should be focusing on. At the end of the day, I think you'll do a good job for people if you just listen to what they want. And if you really do what they want, even though, let's say, you might not give the best, let's say that you don't give the best of the best of the best because you're not the best in the world, but if you just listen and accomplish what they were trying to accomplish, they're going to love you 1,000 times more.
Yeah, I agree. Most people, what I found is most people generally know what they want to do.
Yeah.
They just kind of want someone there to like throw some ideas off of, tell them the right way to do it, give them some suggestions, tell them the pros and cons of each situation, and then guide them through it the best way possible.
Yeah.
Right? Most of the time.
Yeah.
So like you said, you've got to listen to what they want.
And I definitely realized too, one experience, I'm just going to talk about my experience.
Yeah,
okay. So I just me and my girlfriend, we bought a condo, and the real estate agent that we used was the wrong agent, is a nice way of saying it. He's used to dealing with bigger transactions. He was not interested in our transaction. I used him because of a relationship that I had. And it was one of those things where he just wanted to be done with us, so he pressured us into like a place sooner rather than we were probably ready to. And, it ended up working out and it was perfectly fine. But I think too, everyone needs to realize that there's different real estate agents for different types of deals, right? There's real estate agents that might specialize in certain markets. I know that I have a friend, she just does beach homes in specific cities. And just because your friend or that person you love, family member, is a real estate agent doesn't mean they're the best person for your scenario. You need to find somebody who knows your market, they know your area, they know exactly what you're trying to accomplish and have experience doing that. And so I would like you to talk about different specialties like within being a real estate agent, like knowing your market and knowing where to do like the right person to hire, I guess. Yeah,
I like to look at it more like who's my right customer. That's how I look at my business. So I have clients that I help people buying right now with a first-time buyer in Riverside.
Yeah.
And I'm possibly working on a $10 million buyer by the coast.
Yeah.
I look for people that need a special type of attention, that want a certain type of attention to detail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for me, the price points don't matter. My level of service is always there. They're going to get someone who knows the contract, that knows the tax issues that may go along with whether it's investment property, a 1031, whatever it is. Point them in the right direction. Have the right connections with attorneys and all the other specialties to facilitate that transaction in the best possible manner. Yeah. But from a customer's perspective of picking the right agent, I agree. I wouldn't necessarily always break it. I would say in certain luxury markets, I would say that, sometimes it can help to like have the market expert or neighborhood expert or whatever it is. But most transactions that I'm dealing with and my agents are dealing with, you got people that are moving from one city to the next city that might be upgrading from inland to the coast. You really have to be dynamic.
Yeah.
You really have to be dynamic, and all of the data is out there. I mean, the MLS, the internet, you can do so much research, right? So if you know how to do your job right, you really should be able to facilitate 95% of different types of transactions, with the exception of $20 and $30 million homes that aren't even listed on the market, where it's basically people are paying for a Rolodex.
Yeah.
Really, you need to find a qualified person that's knows how to think, knows how to solve. The first thing I tell all my agents when they come in, I said, you're not getting paid for anything other than solving problems, managing emotions, and handling stress. You think you're going to get paid because you're going to find the magic property? All the properties are on the internet for the most part.
Yeah.
The clients are finding the properties these days. So you're either a professional door opener, which you're going to be outdated and go out of business pretty soon, or there's a different value that you're bringing. And so when you get into a real estate transaction as an agent, they realize very quickly how stressful, how emotional, and how many problems come up. And that's really what we get paid to do.
Yeah. Okay. So now I want to kind of shift gears a little bit. So we've talked about your process. So you really get to know the person and find out what their goals are. So I want to talk about, you seem to be really good about choosing your customer. So I want to talk about some of your worst customers, or actually your worst customers. I'd love to hear what they've done to you. I'm sure that in your 15-year career, you've dealt with everybody and anybody at this point. You said $10 million homes, couple $100,000 homes. What have they really taught you? What is the headaches they brought to your life, and what exactly have you done about it?
So I have two types of customers in my role. As a broker, I have my agents are my customer, and my clients are my customer. By far, and none of the ones that are working with me now, but by far my biggest headaches have been the bad agents.
Got it. So the people that actually work for you.
Yes.
Got it.
So I have two customers so, in that respect, obviously I won't say names, but miserable people, some of them.
Yeah.
There's a problem that they don't want to fix. They just want to complain about it, and they just want to sit in your desk and take up all your time, and all they bring are problems. So luckily I don't have any of those agents anymore. I've learned to get rid of them very quick. I stopped trying to be the I don't know what's the way, fix the you can't fix certain people. Some people are who they are. So I move on. So from a client perspective, there's not really any client that particularly stands out as a nightmare, because I just expect a lot of problems in the transaction. I will say that
I think that's a good way of life, just to think about life in general. I kind of have a rule. I expect nothing from anyone, right? So when anybody comes to my door, I expect they know nothing, right? If you start with that premise, you'll be a lot happier, right? Everyone's like, well, that person fucking sucks. I'm like, well, you suck too. Start off by expecting nothing from them, and then you'll be pleasantly surprised.
You're 100% right. It's actually changed, because my attitude used to not be I used to be so frustrated, I used to get so mad. I don't do that anymore. I don't care. The thing is this, in real estate, we tend to we tend to put our ego and ourselves in the middle of the It's not my home. No. It's not my money.
No.
Why am I upset? I'm not upset. They're the ones that are stressed out. They're the ones that have the problem. So the bottom line is, I'm the only person they can take it out on. Unless I royally screw up, which, thank God, you know what, knock on wood, we haven't had any of those situations. But there's not really, so when they're taking it out, I don't take it personally. There have been a couple situations where I've had to.
It's highly emotional what you do.
Oh, well, just to give you some examples, when you got a pregnant wife, right? I'm just saying, these are situations that we deal with. You've got you got a multi-leg transaction. So let's say you're selling a house, you're buying a house, and then that person is selling a house and buying another house. You got three different, well, not one, two,
four.
You can four.
Three. Yeah, you're
depending if there's dual agencies involved, you could have, 3 or 5 different agents involved, and you don't know who those agents are. You don't know who those other lenders are. You don't have control over numerous aspects of the transaction.
Oh man!
Now you've got hard line dates.
I'm getting anxiety thinking about this.
No, you're thinking this sounds like Sam. You got to call me later. We got a lawsuit going on.
It sounds like somebody's gonna mess something up along the chain of reaction here for sure.
Well, if you got the person that's in the middle, that's waiting for the money from that from the one before, and they have to buy the next house over. There's a pregnant pregnant lady that needs to get in. They've got 3 days to move. Movers are set up.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have, and then you got families, you've got kids, you've got school.
Yeah.
You could have husbands that are out of town. We've had this stuff happen.
Yeah.
And it's a shitstorm when it hits. Who do you think? You think they're going to be talking to me calmly and nicely? No. They're using the F word. They're like, I'm going to call Joe Nazarian, my attorney. Yeah. Those are the threats that we get. Even if it's not our fault, you can't get upset in those situations. No. You need to stay focused. Yeah. You need to calm them down. You need to reassure them, and you need to solve the problem. Yeah. And so those are the things. So
you're a therapist as much as I am in my job. It's tough, dude. God. It's emotionally a lot. I mean, you're dealing with the biggest transaction of most people's lives, right? Most people don't buy multiple homes. They buy one. Yeah. This is it, and they're going to be in it for the next 30 years, right? And that's something that's a very, very real reality. And so if you don't handle that process properly and you treat it like a sale, I'm sure that person's going to hate you for the rest of your life, first of all. But worst of all, you're going to make something that should be, focused on them about yourself, which is not what it's about.
Well, look, people, how do most people handle conflict?
They freak out.
They freak out and they avoid it. Yeah. So when you've got a major problem going on in a real estate transaction, there's a high probability that you cannot reach one of the agents. Yeah. And they're the ones who can solve the problem, because I can't call your client.
Oh, man.
So, communication is one of the major complaints. If you look at a lot of the case studies for complaints against realtors, is communication, lack of or none.
It's the number one complaint for attorneys too. Okay. That's one of our core values. Oh, really? One of our core values is communication.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, because we over inundate our clients with information. They never are and I make it a rule for anybody that works in my firm to give their clients their cell phone, or else they can't work for me. So we try to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. But many times I get clients because they've fired their previous attorney because they're like, I hired this guy, I haven't heard from him in 8 months. I'm like, what do you mean you haven't heard from your attorney in 8 months? What does that even mean? And they're like, no, I've not spoken to him since we signed up. He's like, I've spoken to his assistant. I'm like, great, so you just got screwed. But it is what it is, and you're right. It's all about communication. If you just pick up the phone and explain what's going on or talk about what's going on, you have to make yourself ready, available. And no matter how big you are, it's all about mitigating, right? So if you're the manager of your company, you need to tell your people it's better to have 100 good clients than to have 200 clients where you're not able to manage what's going on. Yeah. That's when it's time to bring somebody else to work below you. And a lot of people don't realize that. They just keep bringing on, and they never get somebody to work below. I have a friend like this right now. He's in the commercial real estate industry. He's a commercial loan officer, and he's just terrified to let go of the vine. He won't hire somebody, but he doesn't have enough time to live or to breathe, and he just won't do it. And so he tells me it's struggling because some of the stuff he's working on, it's not getting his full attention that it should be, because he's afraid and he doesn't want to lose the commissions. And it's growing, right? It's learning how to grow the right way.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, if there's a problem, I should be the first person they hear from.
Yeah, 100%.
Period. So other nightmare transactions, I mean, honestly, probably the most stressful ones, probably emotionally, are divorce ones.
Divorces suck in general. I've done 2 divorces in my life, and God bless divorce attorneys. They deserve special pedestals in heaven. I'm telling you, they deserve first in line to deal with people's shit. But you're dealing with the parents, you're dealing with the grandparents, you're dealing with the dog, you're dealing with the kids, you're dealing with everybody's involved, and it's down to who's taking the couch. It's insanity. So it's tough. So I definitely
talk about
divorces,
egos, right?
Yeah, talk about ego, and that's and you want spite. That's a fucking spiteful lawsuit. The wife will bankrupt the husband just to make sure that they don't walk away with anything, just because they're that angry, and they will drag it on. And the attorneys, not to say anything bad about family law attorneys. So I'm actually going to be interviewing somebody next week. That's cool. One of my close friends. She's a sweetheart, but a lot of times the attorneys are the only ones that win in those transactions. And they're charging the high level ones, they're charging upwards of $700 an hour because they're the best of the best, and they're dealing with the huge properties. They're getting $400,000 or $500,000 on these cases that last a couple years when they're separating these huge properties.
I have we have a couple in our office that have been closed over a year, and I know that the attorneys are still holding the money in their trust accounts.
Jesus.
And I'm like, why? And so when you're going through it, the problem is, a lot of times the people.
Perspective. You're not going to see outside of it.
You hear things that you're like, man, you just feel so bad. So I think those are probably the worst. I don't like them because it's just a sad situation. The one thing I love about my job that is the most fantastic thing is that it's generally a happy thing. Yeah. I'm making a lot of money and people are happy. How many times, I'm sure that in some of your cases, people are happy, and other ones that they're not. I mean, in general, unless someone's losing their home, unfortunately, and we had to deal with this back in the crash, which was probably the worst part of my career, because there were so many miserable situations. But I'm dealing with happy stuff. It's great. People are new home, new memories. Like I'm their best friend, right? So, and then other than that, I had one really complicated transaction with like 10 siblings suing each other.
Jesus.
And I was just like, holy, and nobody used a DocuSign.
Oh my God.
And so that was just a nightmare.
Yeah, that just sounds like some bad management on everyone's side over there. Well, all right. So I want to segue now into, I think it's not so much the successes, right? Everybody only sees the end product, right? I think people don't realize that the journey is actually the best part about it, and that's how you ended up becoming who you are, right? Michael Jordan doesn't talk about all of the game-winning shots that he made. He said, I missed like 73 game-winning shots, and that's what I remember. And so what are some mistakes, or what might be a mistake that ended up putting you on your path to where you are today, and how do you think it defined you?
Yeah, I think one mistake, I'm just kind of like, I know it all. Yeah. And I just went right for the very beginning, became a broker, opened my own office. Yeah. Because I just wanted to go right for it, Yeah. It probably would have been smart to just go work somewhere for a few years.
I did the same thing.
Hindsight, it's hindsight. I'm like, why did I do that? I didn't need to do that. Dude. Plus, I did it right before the crash.
Oh man!
I'm like, oh my God, I really God put some humility in me. Yeah. So, but it's okay. It was also part of the journey. It was great. The things that I figured out couldn't. That's probably one mistake that I would say, or one. I mean, I would just say a lessons learned. I really believe in mistakes because it's like this is where I'm at. I don't know necessarily that I would change anything. It's I'm here, and
it's a decision you made.
It's a decision I made.
I did the same thing right when I passed the bar. I said I'm opening up my own shingle, and let me tell you, oh man, that first couple of years, you're like, what the hell am I doing? You don't know your head from your ass. You're like figuring it out as you go along. But then again, like I'm so good at what I do, it's because I've fucked up so many times, and I'm like, okay. Now I know because I have that personal emotional experience tied to when I did that mistake in the beginning, and so now I'm extremely intelligent about when I make the decision now. But it's so true, and I didn't realize that. That's awesome that you went out right on your own. You figured it out, but it's tough, and it teaches you a lot too. And you like one of the reasons that I started a networking group of other young PI attorneys that I knew of is because a couple of us did that, but we didn't have a support system. Right. And when you first go off on your own, and when you're young, people almost don't want to help you. They want to see you fail. They don't want to see you become this huge successful person, and then you're just on your own figuring it out as you go along.
Yep. And but how well can you train people now, though?
Oh my God!
How can you can identify with them, right?
I have so much patience. Like people are like, "How do you have so much patience?" I'm like, "Because I did all these things."
You feel with them, right?
I literally am like, I did this 100 times, so don't worry. Like you're learning it the first time because I'm here to help. But like for me, I had to learn 2-3 times, and then I figured it out. Yeah.
And so like you said, it's a decision. I'm if I that's something that I would recognize. It totally helps me in how I train and how I can my agents know I feel with them. It's not like just go do this. Like I know I literally been through it.
You've done the work.
I've done worse. So so probably that, and what are mistakes, the things that I've done, you said?
But decisions, mistakes, what are things that put you on your path? This is a great example. If there's nothing else, we can segue into the next topic.
No, I would say the only other thing is I took lots of risks. And when I say it's really me and my wife.
Yeah, you and your wife. It's
Linda.
A team effort.
We took lots of risks. And at the time, I thought that I was biting off way more than I could chew. Yeah. And I just wish we had taken more. Yeah, I would have taken way more risks because it's just.
Can you give us an example of one risk?
One risk was just so literally when the market crashed in 2008 it was in 2009. So I had just started my career at the end of 2005 in real estate. Yeah. So I was just grasping onto thin air trying to stay in the business, and because loan products were going away. So we went from like real estate to loans to construction loans and then there was just nothing. So we literally scaled it down to a skeleton operation. I literally got another job. I was doing real estate till midnight every night after I got home from work. After a couple of years, I always knew I wanted to be back in full time, but the world was falling apart. We didn't know what a short sale was, but basically I quit my job. So I was making really good money at this place, but I was also making really good money doing real estate. My wife and I decided we're going all in on real estate. So she was we had her pregnant with our first child. We spent the rest of the money that we had buying a complete fixer-upper. Yeah. So we bought a home, put all our money into the home. I quit the only income that I had, bought a real estate franchise, basically dead broke and tons of debt, and just bought a house, having a kid, opened a new company, and I was the only person in the office. Yeah. So back then I was like basically shitting my pants.
I understand.
But now I look at it like, dude, should have done more. I should have bought more properties. I would have done anything back then. I should have leveraged everything and bought everything that I could.
Yeah, no, I understand. So, I mean, not a lot of people know this, but when I first went off on my own, there were a couple months there where I didn't have enough clients, and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make ends meet. And like, there were points where I actually, Nicole, your cousin, I went with her on a couple. I was like, I'll go be a real estate agent until I figure out this whole attorney thing. And I went with her to go see a couple homes, how she did it, and I almost wanted to be a real estate agent too on the side, and to kind of like hustle and like make some money there too. And it's like, it's so true. When you first make those decisions, hindsight's 2020, of course, and 2020 is not hindsight this year. We want to be past. We want to be past
2021.
Yeah, we want to be 2021. But I mean, look, for all the entrepreneurs out there that are struggling and you're going through it, know that there is light on the other side, but no, it's not going to be easy. And the most successful entrepreneurs that I've seen on the planet is this. They are risk mitigators. So if you mitigate your risk and you look at all the worst case scenarios and you have a backup plan, you're going to be fine, right? Like Richard Branson, when he started Virgin Atlantic, he had a backup plan for all the planes that he bought for the project, that somebody was ready to come in and buy them at the drop of a dime. So if it did not end up successful, which of course it did, we all know Richard Branson, he had a backup plan. And so what you can do is, whatever you're going to get into, have a backup plan. If you can't afford for it to be your start, have 2 jobs. Gary Vee talks about this all the time. Start your side hustle until it can become your full-time thing. But don't, just do what you can to mitigate your risks, and then you're going to be successful no matter what, as long as you hustle and put your heart into it.
Yeah, some of the problem I see is a lot of people listen to these podcasts and these little blurbs of inspiration, and they like to post them on their Instagram, and they're like, work 2 jobs. Yeah, go do it though. Yeah. It's not so glamorous when you're the only person there. There's no money coming in. There's no food on the table. There's no.
Oh, it sucks.
There's the credit card bills coming, and those little Instagram memes aren't so glamorous anymore. So, but I'm 100% with you. Yeah. For the people that are committed to it, I don't think I think it's impossible to fill. Like, it is literally not. Like, literally, if I lost everything today, I would just keep going, and I would build it back up again. You can only fail if you stop trying. But the problem is, I don't think most people are cut out for it. I just don't think it's possible.
No, I agree entirely. I think that most people are not going to make it in the long run, because they're going to, like I said, the statistic earlier, it's like 80% of businesses, and then of those percentages, you really just have to be fully committed, because everybody just sees those entrepreneur posts on Instagram, which is the jet, the nice car. You don't see all the shit, the ups, the downs, the depression, the anger, the screaming, worrying if you're going to make next month's payment. I mean, like, just to be very blunt, where I am with my firm, like, we're doing well, but we're not in a position where I'm like sitting on a bunch of cash, right? Like, we do good, we're doing a great job for our clients, and like, we make the money to survive from month to month to month, but I'm not sitting here with $1 million in the bank, crushing life, flying a jet everywhere. This is my process, and I'm going through it, but I love it every single day. I don't work for anybody. I don't report to anybody. I'm my own goddamn boss. I do what I want when I want. If I want to go on vacation next week, I will go on vacation next week, but then I'm probably going to have to work every day for 14 hours a day for the next month. And people don't see that 14 hours a day, so they could see me gone on an island for a week. It's like, great, I had a good time, but I'm going to fucking put in the time when I get back. I'm going to pay it back. And that's one thing too that I'm realizing with like Gary Vee is like, he's like, don't create content, document it. So I'm starting to just make a post every single day about what's going on in my life, so people can understand I'm not in a suit every single day in a courtroom crushing it. Like, most of the time I'm at home, working from home, sitting in front of my computer, just like all of you fucking are. Yep. And everybody thinks being an attorney is this glamorous lifestyle. I'm responding to emails 80% of my goddamn day. Like, that's what I do. I'm a professional email responder. That's really what my job is all about. And so, it's not all the glamour, but I'm realizing too, it's like feeling blessed even in the non-glamorous parts of your job. And one thing too that I realized is, there's a business coach that says it well. He teaches his most billionaire clients, his most successful one, you're always taught in your whole entire life not to quit. Well, the most successful people in the world, they quit. They quit doing anything that is not the most profitable part about who they are as a person. If you don't like emails, stop fucking doing emails. Hire someone to do your emails. If you don't want to print and scan stuff, don't do that. You just have to find somebody that can do it for cheaper than what your normal hourly rate is when you're doing the max efficiency thing, and quit doing the things that don't make you happy, and you will find the most success that way, right?
Yep.
And so, I mean, I don't know, I know I'm kind of like on my soapbox, but dude, it's so true. You're kind of just like making me realize like this is where I'm at, and it's cool. It's exciting though. Every day is exciting. I'm not sitting back on my laurels. I got to fucking hustle and get my next client because I'm not sitting there in the bank with a bunch of, money. So it's cool. It's exciting. Life is not boring when you're an entrepreneur.
No, it's not. There's never a non-exciting day. And they say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. Like, that's also another sexy saying, but make it through the 10 years of getting kicked in the stomach every freaking day. Yeah. So it's just, when I look back, when when we were talking about doing this, I look back and said, wow. I said, what, like, the way that it happened, all of those struggles, like, I literally don't know if I'd want it any other way.
No, it's fun. I mean, it's cool. And like one thing I've realized too, you got to start documenting it just for yourself. Because one day you're going to look back and all you're going to see is your successes, and you're not going to remember.
I'm going to forget.
Yeah, well, you're telling me now, like, I'm living through things that I don't think about anymore. And it's like, it's good to think about those things because it makes you feel more grateful for where you are, like, today, right? So that's super important. All right, so let's get into the last question that I like to ask, and something that, you're obviously extremely successful. Anybody, in my opinion, that is the boss of another person, I think is a successful individual because they're at a point where they're able to hire somebody, they're able to train them, they've built a business where they can afford to bring somebody else on, and people are coming to them. So you have 23 people that work for you. That is no easy task, right? I only have 4 people that work for me, and that is a lot of management just on my own. I couldn't imagine what 23 is like. So what are some habits that help you stay sane between running a brokerage, an escrow company, having 3 children, your family that you're managing, and still, feeling healthy, staying good? Like, what are things that you do to keep yourself balanced?
Yeah, so you have to have priorities, right? And for me, my number one priority is my family, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, I can't have a family and enjoy them if I don't make an income. Yeah. So business is very important, but at the end of the day, my priority is my family. So some of the things that I do to maintain my priorities and be able to enjoy time with my family and have my business is, I join a men's Bible study.
That's amazing.
And we do that every Tuesday. And it's probably been one of the best things. You talked earlier about surrounding yourself with, you said your networking group of your PI attorneys. For me, from just a spiritual standpoint, being able to be surrounded by other fathers that are most of them are business. I think all of them might be business owners, maybe except for one, and that share a similar faith. That's so healthy for me every month to be surrounded by other men that are similar and business owners. It's a great thing. So that's very, very important. Really helped put me on a very good trajectory. That's one thing that I do on a weekly basis. From like a daily standpoint,
let's talk about that, the weekly basis thing.
Oh, okay.
So for me too, I actually lead 3 book clubs, and it's one way that like I've noticed too, like the people in each book club are different type of people, and it's really the people you surround yourself with will make you like feel a certain type of way. So like I have like one book club that's about like Tony Robbins books, which like self-help. Then I have another group of friends they're all super nerdy and they're marketing people, so they're like those types of people. And then I have another book club which I do with, actually, I wanted to recommend this to you. My whole company, we do a book club together.
Oh, cool.
Once a week, we talk about a chapter in a book, and it's all about company culture. I'm telling you right now, it's been one of the greatest things I've ever done in my entire life. And my whole team, a lot of these books, like, they really help you look at from the lowest person in your company to the highest person in your company, and lowest and highest is the wrong terms, just whatever position it might be in your company, to see what their struggles are. And so I recommend that you do this with your team and everybody in your company, and make it a regular required thing. And I make it a required thing to be part of our company culture. And I'm telling you, like, it's been a huge benefit, because now you're creating, like, I'm all about like face to face, and this is the only face to face I get is these Zoom meetings with these friends and these people that I care about once a week, and it's helped out a lot. So I just want to say that's really great. I really respect that, and I think it's good also to, when you're a business owner, if you're not a business owner, you don't understand. That's the best thing I can tell you. You don't get it, and you never will get it. Right. But you can be a business owner of just yourself in the business, and you'll understand. But if you're not a business owner, you just don't understand, and you will never understand the shit that we deal with on a daily basis. And it's just, that's okay. This is something me and my girlfriend talk about all the time. She's like, I don't want your problems, Joe. She's like, the last thing I want is to be a business owner. And so I tell her, I'm like, okay, I understand what you're saying, but it's important to recognize, like, you need to be cognizant of those different types of individuals. And if you want to be surrounded by people that understand your issues, it's good to do that because it will help you and it'll help you grow. Right. So let's talk about your last habit, or if you wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. I mean, everyone has stresses and pressures and problems, and you want to make sure that when you discuss them, you're discussing them with people that are aligned with you. Otherwise, you're going to go down the wrong path. I don't know what a good example is. It's like maybe if you're having relationship problems, don't discuss it with the person that's divorced 6 times.
That's a great example. I mean, dude, I could tell you, I've done stupid shit when I was younger where I've almost gotten arrested. And the bottom line is I hung out with this kid who had a criminal record and he did stupid shit. And he's like, let's steal alcohol from this place. And, when you're young and you're dumb, and it's so true, spending time with that kid once, I almost went to jail because of it. And it's true. The people you're around are the people you will become like, or you're eventually going to get infected by them. Right. And so it's so important that you're cognizant of the types of individuals you surround yourself with. If you're with a bunch of friends that don't want to do anything with their lives, that don't care about their businesses, that are just living paycheck to paycheck, surviving on mediocrity, that's who you will become. Right. That's the bottom line. Yeah. So if you're not surrounding yourself by people that are trying to continuously cause you to accelerate and to grow and to reach your new heights, then you're, what's the point? What the fuck are you doing with your life? Get your shit together.
Right. Or that will call you out on your bullshit, or call you out if you're doing something wrong. Yeah. It's important to be surrounded by those kinds of people. So from that perspective, that's what I do. And when you start your own business, when I started, I mean, there was like 10 years. I mean, I literally neglected myself, physically, emotionally. I mean, literally, I was just like a working dog. So I gained weight. I stopped playing sports. I stopped working out. I just said, if I have time to do anything, I have to put it into work. Yeah, that was really bad to an extent where you can't do that forever. And some people do, and it ruins marriages, ruins relationships, it ruins everything. You'll wake up in 20 years and you'll have everything and you'll have nothing. Yeah. So I started playing soccer again. That was amazing. Nice. And now my kids are excited that I'm playing. I'm excited, and it's just something fun that I don't have to think about anything. So on a weekly basis, I don't play every week, obviously, but I make it a habit of playing. I know I should. My knees were swelling up like crazy for the first few weeks. So
it's okay.
Doing that.
Who are you playing with, or where are you guys playing?
It's just a friend of mine's a men's league. It's a pickup game. It's not even a league. It's just a pickup game. A bunch of people, they just get together.
Is Tony
on Thursdays.
Playing this too?
No.
Dude, that's funny. Because where do you live?
In Lake Forest right now.
Okay, you're in Lake Forest. Okay, you're right around the corner. I'm in Aliso Viejo, right around the corner from you. Yeah, because I know Tony joined a league on Wednesday nights. I'm going to start playing with him too. Because I play soccer too.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
I come play with you guys.
Dude, I mean, it's good. If there's one thing I've realized because of goddamn COVID, if you're sitting at home and all you do is work, you're going to kill yourself. Oh, yeah. There's days where I've been like, I'm going to shoot myself in the head because all I've done for the last 6 days is I've seen no one and I've stared at my computer screen all day, every day, and that's my life. And so I've realized if you don't keep hobbies and you don't keep passions in your life, you're going to be shut luck. Like I want to get back into soccer. I want to learn a martial art is something that's on my list too. Just something that's going to get me out and something that's not just for the purpose of working and learning, because those things are important also. Yeah, have hobbies. I agree. It's important. I mean, and if you're starting a business, you're going to go through a point where you're going to make that sacrifice. You're going to stop doing things, but just always remember you got to get back into it and don't make it too long. Yeah. 10 years is too long. Yeah, because look, guys, we understand that there's going to be days where you can't go to fucking play soccer. We get it. That's not a top priority. If you have shit you have to do. You do the things that's important, but what we're saying is you should be doing those things more often than not because it keeps you sane and you're going to work a lot harder. You're going to get a lot better. Like top priority for me in my life is traveling. And my employees always look at me like, you're always going somewhere. You're always doing something. I'm like, yeah, because if I didn't do that, I would want to kill myself and I want to kill you, And so it's like, do what makes you happy at the end of the day. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it all? Yeah, life's too short. I mean, life is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be enjoyable. And if it wasn't, then why the hell would we live in Southern California anyways? Might as well just go work in Alaska in an igloo or something. Yeah. People are always like, well, it's cheaper to live in Wyoming. I'm like, go live in Wyoming. Yeah, exactly. Like, don't get me wrong. Once again, not to say anything bad about Wyoming, but our parents worked hardest to come to this place because it's the most desirable place on the planet is to live in Southern California. And it's like, I think a lot of, because we're like first generation here, right? I think a lot of first generation people, like I still understand because my parents infused it in me that they worked as hard as they could to build the best life possible, and that was in Southern California because that's where the whole world tries to move to. And so you have to be respectful and you want to recognize what you're doing there too. Yeah, it's a slap in the face if you don't do Absolutely, 100%. All right, so I wanted to say thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks
what I want you to
me.
do is if you could please share your information for anybody that's looking to buy a home in Southern California. Obviously, Samir and his team are there for you. They're here to help, and not only that, but you need to keep in mind that they're going to listen to what you want. They're going to try to help you accomplish your goals. They're going to really focus on what you want to do as an individual. This is the most important thing in your life, and many times you're not going to be buying another home. Many people, this is going to be your only home you're going to buy. You want to make sure you do it with somebody that cares, somebody that listens, and is going to be there for you. And obviously, the brokerage is going to be there to help you, and you can look up their values online. I think their website is thebrokerage.com.
Yep.
And so you can see everything they're about on there. You can see him, his beautiful wife, and their whole team, and how they can help you out. So Sam is going to give you all the information on how to contact him, and then you guys can reach out to him. And right now, the market's hot, interest rates are low, so call now.
Yep. Thank you. Brokerage.com, my cell phone number, everybody. It's all over online. It's not a secret. You can call, text me at 714-595-2423, or you can email me at sam@thebrokerage.com.
So let's spell the brokerage. So the website is www.thebroker, BROKER, edge.com,
Yep,
correct? Okay,
correct.
Perfect. So if anybody needs anything or any real estate questions, please reach out. He's always available. Please harass him. Call his cell phone. I know he
Late at night.
Late at night, please. Yes, he's an entrepreneur. The late at night is part of the business. That's what we signed up for. Yep. So thanks a lot for coming, and thank you everyone
Joe.
for being our guest.
Thank you.
Cool.
Nasty.